All right. Hello and welcome back to the Fit Chicks and Hormones podcast. Today I have a special guest, Dr. Angela Potter. Wow, I said that wrong. Also known as the PCOS Fertility Doctor. She is a board certified naturopath helping women who struggle with PCOS. And we were just having a conversation just quick before this of how much we're learning that more women have PCOS, but they don't know it or nobody knows what it is. So I want to thank you for being here and welcome.
Yes, thank you, Angie. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, great. So we're going to start off I want to have you share your story of how you became known as the PCOS fertility doctor. Just give your story to us.
Yes, so I've been practicing for about 10 years now, and I was doing a lot of just general women's health and also helping like new mothers after they gave birth. And then more and more, I was having women come into my practice who had PCOS, and I was hearing a really common theme from them. And they were coming in to see me and saying things like, well, I went to see my other doctor and they just told me that I could only take this one medication. Like, is there any other options? Or I was only told I had to lose like 100 pounds and then my fertility would open up. Like, is that true? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. Like, I just all of a sudden saw this big hole for these women who were searching for answers and just weren't getting what they needed. And so that's when I, really started researching PCOS and understanding all the different aspects of it. And now my practice is, pretty much all women with PCOS and helping them to overcome these challenges and the hormonal imbalances. And, most of the work I do is helping them to get pregnant. So, yeah.
Right. Because I think, as much as I've learned and, read about stuff, is that's the hardest thing is the women that are struggling with that, they can't get pregnant and they don't realize it. That's the reason why. Yeah. Because nobody's telling them.
Yes.
Until they find the right person.
Right. And they're just walking around not realizing what's going on in their bodies. And yeah, so it needs to be focused on much more in the medical world so that,
right.
People can understand. Yeah.
Right. I think it's like all the things that I'm finding this more and more as I talk to more people and work with more clients. Like, it's not even just that, it's like so much when it comes to anything hormone related to women. Like, they just don't know because nobody's telling them, nobody's teaching them. They're just like, oh, you're just getting older. It's fine. You'll be fine. Just, get through it all. But it's not that. And so I think that's just so frustrating. There's so many different pieces that women don't understand and they don't know any better. So they just kind of sit down and be like, I guess this is how life has to be. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Absolutely. And what's happening is that many conventional doctors are ordering pretty just, how do you say it, like in the box lab tests, right? And when we're talking about hormonal issues, which PCOS is, and you're just looking at kind of like the high level, like, oh, just the TSH, just the main thyroid hormone, or just your estrogen levels, like that doesn't give you a picture of what's going on in the body. And so with PCOS specifically, so PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it's important to recognize that it's a syndrome. And what that means is that it's a collection of symptoms together that create this PCOS. So it's not just one thing that we understand the exact physiology of what's happening in the body with PCOS, and then there is one treatment that then pairs with it. It is not that cut and dry.
Right.
And so, PCOS is a mixture of elevated testosterone levels, typically causing like acne, and that weight gain, easy weight gain, and holding on to that weight, particularly in the belly area. It's ovulation issues, so long cycles, or you're not ovulating at all, and then also cysts on the ovaries. So those are like the three pillars that you need. You need two of those three in order to be diagnosed with PCOS. And understanding that is really important because once you understand, okay, what elements of PCOS that you have, then you can get a treatment plan that's targeted to what's going on in your specific body, because what you're going through with PCOS is different from your neighbor who also has PCOS. And so you've got to get an individualized approach. And that's the missing link for so many women out there.
Yeah, I think that like it was just a couple months ago, and I was diving into it, reading more that they categorize it. And is it like 3 or 4 different ways? Yeah, where I didn't know that before. I knew it was just PCOS, but I assume that's what you're referring to, is like every person needs to now be diagnosed in a different manner depending on what they have, what their symptoms are.
Yes. So there's two different parts to the diagnosis. So one is following what I just explained. It's known as the Rotterdam criteria. And so figuring out like where you are within that is really important. And then the next step is to figure out your PCOS type. And that is, there's 4 different types. And we can go through the types, but you want to understand which type you are. And you could be at one type or a mix of all 4. And that's when you get like the gold, right? To be able to understand what's going on in your body. So yeah, the 4 different types are, one is inflammatory PCOS. And that's when there's some inflammation going on in the body. Typically we see like an autoimmune disease along with that, or like some joint pain, things like that, something inflammatory.
Mhm.
Gut health imbalances can
Right.
be a part of that as well. Yeah, super important.
Mhm.
There's post-pill PCOS, which is for somebody who had like really regular periods and then was on hormonal birth control. Doesn't have to be the pill, it could be a hormonal IUD as well, but just those hormones, and then gets off of that hormonal birth control and all of a sudden like gaining weight, getting acne, periods are not regular, things like that. That's like classic for post-pill PCOS. And then there's adrenal PCOS, which is when you are just overly stressed out, and your adrenal glands, your cortisol is not being produced as it needs to be. And your cortisol, which is the stress hormone in your body, it then creates this cascade, which affects insulin levels and your thyroid and shuts down ovulation, raises testosterone. It just creates all this havoc in your body. And so that's really important to understand as well. So,
Okay, those are, yeah. And so when women come into you talking, what are their normal symptoms? And so like how would you go about diagnosing, figuring out like, okay, just because based on their symptoms, where you would kind of put them, or do you do further testing as well? Or is it all of the above?
yeah, so definitely testing is involved with that. So the women that are coming in to see me have typically been trying to get pregnant for a little while. Some have been told pretty loosely that they have PCOS, but they don't understand why they do, or what it was that created that diagnosis.
That
But
was going to be a
typically,
question of mine as well.
okay, good. So typically somebody has like irregular cycles and can have like incredibly long cycles, like 70, 80-day cycles, or maybe only had one period a year, right? For the past couple years. So someone like that who wants to get pregnant, who then probably has already visited like a fertility clinic and they've just given them a medication. Typically it's like letrozole to induce ovulation. And a lot of times that's failed. It's a failed cycle, which makes sense if you haven't done like the groundwork to support your body. So that's kind of the typical picture of someone coming in. So if they're, not having regular cycles, we've got to do some comprehensive work, lab work, to understand what their hormones look like. So we look at reproductive hormones. We do a full thyroid panel and not just TSH, because it doesn't give you much
No,
information at all.
no.
Yeah. And one missing link that's really important is ordering those thyroid antibodies, because having positive antibodies means you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune condition of the thyroid. And that autoimmune condition, I mean, I diagnose a lot of women with that in my practice, and it's so common to go along with PCOS. So like you have to ask for it if you're going to just your regular
Right.
doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which can be frustrating.
Very
But,
frustrating.
and sometimes they won't do it anyway, even if you do ask them. So,
I know. It drives me wild.
right.
Yeah, because this is a really important part. Because a lot of women who get the diagnosis of PCOS, they think that they're kind of locked into that diagnosis and it's a lifelong issue. Now you might need to pay attention to your
Mhm.
hormones a little bit more than people who haven't been diagnosed. But that's why it's so important to get like that comprehensive hormone evaluation done, excuse me, to understand your PCOS type, because then you're getting this like complete view of your health and then getting a plan based on what's going on in your body. And then that can help bring you to where you want to get, right? Like I'm working with women who want to get pregnant. And
Right.
so we're on that path with my patients. But, for somebody who is thinking, well, am I going to have PCOS the rest of my life? You can get your body, again, it's always on an individualized level, but you can get your body to a place where perhaps you don't fit under that PCOS diagnostic criteria anymore. So, but you need that support for what's exactly going on in your body and then a plan that targets that.
Right. Right. Yeah. I I've heard that from clients before too. Is like I have PCOS, so I'm just never going to be able to lose weight. I'm never, I'm struggling to have kids or this and that. I'm like, but we can change that. Like there's things you can do. It's lifestyle choices. There's proactive things that you can do to help that. I think some people get stuck in the mindset because I've been labeled with this, so this is going to be me for the rest of my life. But
Yes.
learning that you can move past it. Yeah. So what would be some steps like you would take with women that come into, well, with PCOS that either they're looking to get pregnant or they're further on down the line and they're just like, I can't lose weight. I don't feel good. Things are not right. I'm not, what would you suggest? Or what are what steps do you take to move them forward?
Hmm. Yeah. So getting that testing done is most important to
Mhm.
understand, okay, what imbalances, what deficiencies are going on. I also do cortisol testing. So testing, it's a salivary test and it looks at, okay, what is your cortisol output during the day? And that is incredibly important to see what it's doing inside the body. A lot of with that, the weight piece for a lot of women who are struggling with not being able to lose weight or gaining weight really easily with PCOS, they it's really important to look at your cortisol levels because high cortisol and high cortisol over time can significantly impact your body. It basically keeps you in this place of high stress, which
Mhm.
then keeps the weight on the body because the body is like trying to protect yourself,
Right.
yeah. And so, understanding that picture. So, and most every single person in my practice has some sort of irregular cortisol picture. So that's going to be a really important first step is like regulating those cortisol levels and getting those stress levels down. And also, it's not just about, oh, okay, go and meditate for 5 minutes a day and all your stress goes away.
Right.
Um, and that like that kind of language, meditation is great, but then that puts the guilt on us, like, oh my gosh, I didn't get my 5 minutes of meditation in, like it's my fault that I feel this way. But
Right.
no, it's like, okay, if your cortisol is not being produced as it's supposed to be, then you need a plan to help get that back into regular balance so then you can react to stressors like much easier.
Right. Right.
So
Yes.
it's like switching physiology, which is so
Yes.
cool.
Right.
Yeah. And then, getting like a diet plan in place. And, I say that diet plan, like it sounds like, I don't want you to think like I'm going into, strict, like
Mhm.
avoiding certain foods and all of that. But with PCOS, it's really important to have just like a really nourishing, supportive food plan that is delicious to your body and helps with the hormone imbalance and certain deficiencies that are common with PCOS. So getting that in place, I do a lot of work on like egg quality, and improving egg quality with women. So yeah,
And how do you do that? Like, what does that look like?
for egg quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So eggs they are like these powerhouse parts of your body.
Mhm.
And as women, we're born with all the eggs that we'll ever have. And then, but they're in this like dormant, sleepy position for most of the time. And then about a year before the egg, I'm totally geeking out here. I realize that you're
That's
asking me
okay.
how you actually do the egg quality, but I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating to
I
talk
love
about
it.
how it
I think
works.
it's, yeah. So,
Okay. A year before you ovulate, that egg is activating and starting to divide chromosomes. It's really in that 3 months leading up to ovulation where it's doing the most with dividing the chromosomes. So when we talk about egg quality, that's exactly what we're referring to, is the egg's ability to divide chromosomes, get to 23 chromosomes, because once it has those 23 chromosomes, that's when it's like healthy and can be released and can go make a baby. If it's not, then it won't ovulate, or if you are trying to make a baby, you could miscarry pretty easily. So those eggs, they require a lot of antioxidants. They're sitting in this fluid that they need tons of antioxidants because they're really susceptible to oxidative stress, right? So stressors from the outside world, right? We're all exposed to different toxins on it, in our air and pollution and foods and just daily life stuff
right.
that causes that oxidative stress in the body, and eggs are really susceptible to that. And so if they don't have the right amount of antioxidants to like fight that off, then they're not going to be able to develop as they need to be. So antioxidants are huge in supporting egg quality. And you can do that through diet as well, diet and supplements, and also supporting your mitochondria. Your mitochondria are these tiny parts of your cells that create energy in the body. And fascinating fact here is that the eggs are like the most dense areas of mitochondria in the entire body. So that's incredible to show how much
Mhm.
our bodies want to be procreating, because we concentrate that energy in our eggs, in our ovaries. And so if your mitochondria doesn't have the proper B vitamins and selenium and the nutrients that it needs to create that energy, then your eggs aren't going to be able to develop as they need to.
Yeah. I've
So
been
yeah.
reading a lot more about the mitochondria, how important the health of it is, and all the different ways that you can support it, stimulate it, I mean, so again, the body is so amazing. There's just so many different places and pieces that you can do that, yeah.
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 And the
Um,
mitochondria being so important for like muscle work.
yep.
And so it's all over your body and yeah, needed for everything.
Right. Right. So when do you find that women are getting misdiagnosed with other things, like if they do come in and with having things going on, whatever it may be, like they're struggling to lose weight, they can't get pregnant, they're just not they're feeling off, um, mood swings, whatever it may be. When it is PCOS, like what are they most often being um, told that it is instead? Do you find?
Oh, like if they have PCOS, but they're being told other things.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a great question. A lot of times they're just being told, like, or in the fertility world, that they just have, unexplained infertility, excuse me. And they're just, said, good luck. Like, we don't really know what's going on. And yeah, because when, with the long cycles and not being able to lose weight, a lot of doctors will actually just clump PCOS into this. They'll just say, oh, you most likely have PCOS. Good luck. The biggest issue is that there's not a lot of treatments in the medical world,
Right.
the conventional medical world. So what happens is that these women are struggling and the doctor says, well, you probably have PCOS. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of treatments for that. You could try metformin, go ahead, go lose some weight. And there's like really big issues with that. One, with metformin, we know that it's not a gold standard for treatment. It does help with insulin balance,
Mhm.
which is beneficial. Like with PCOS, like high insulin is a big, it's a big symptom that a lot of people struggle with.
Right.
But there's many ways to help to regulate that insulin and bring it down. And then these women are just told like, hey, go lose weight, and everything will open up for you if you're able to lose like 100 pounds, and then they're left, not with the resources to figure out how to eat. And then they're left, eating really restrictive diets.
Yeah, they tell them go work out more and eat less, and
Mhm.
it's just the total opposite of what they need. I mean, they may need to move more, maybe, but
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's all about fueling your body and not restricting. So
Yeah.
frustrating.
It's crazy. Yes. And so once you can figure out, okay, well, do you have a thyroid disorder, or are your cortisol levels like through the roof every day? Or, do you have really high testosterone? Um, all three of those things are going to keep your body holding on to the weight. And excuse me, not that I'm emphasizing that the weight is the issue, it's not, but you've got to figure out these other pieces. So say you happen to have high testosterone, your cortisol is all imbalanced, and you have a thyroid issue. And I see all three of those things in
No.
the same person really commonly, you know. So imagine like bringing your testosterone down, getting that stress like regulated and feeling better, and then having that thyroid support on board to help get that back into regular balance. Like imagine then having those pieces in place, how then potentially that can help get the weight off easier. But even if, because it's not just about the weight,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because once you've gotten to that place where you've got these hormone pieces in balance, imagine just feeling better, right?
Right.
On a
Yep.
daily basis, and
Yeah.
just like being able to live.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
100%. It's always, I love that. I love that because I think that's the thing is sometimes when working with women is they're all about the weight. They're all about the weight. I'm like, but what if you just felt so much better? Like imagine how your life would be that way. And it takes a while for them to get to that place, but when they do the work and they see the changes, and it's amazing because I think that's as we get older too, and all these things get harder.
Mhm.
um it's just so important just to feel good, have good energy and be able to live your life versus just wanting to lay around and do nothing and feel awful all the time. So
Yeah, exactly. And to, sleep better and
right,
just,
all the things.
feel good.
Yes. Do you have like a favorite success story that you would like to share? Because I always think those are always fun to hear, like where somebody came to you from and then where they're at now and how much, their life has changed.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, and with these, I'll kind of share loosely because of course I'm not
Right.
gonna, share any specific information, but like this similar story happened twice. And somebody who had come in, they had been trying to get pregnant for a year. Excuse me, longer than a year, about a year and a half, had been to a fertility clinic, had a failed IUI, and had gotten on metformin as well through that. And they got on metformin. All of a sudden, like they started spotting with their periods and just couldn't, like, their periods were starting to get irregular, which, with metformin, you would think it would go the
Mhm.
opposite way.
Right.
And so, yeah, they came in to see me a few months after that. And we, did the comprehensive lab work and found out that, they had high testosterone and some low vitamins like low iron and vitamin D. And and they also had low progesterone as well. So that high testosterone, low progesterone. And so we got on that testosterone lowering plan and getting their cycles regulated, that progesterone up. And yeah, that person was pregnant within like 2 months after that.
Oh,
So
wow. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing. And I'm sure for that, whoever that was, I'm sure she was just like, oh, that was a lot easier than going through the infertility and all the, going through all that stuff.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned this a couple times, and so I'm wondering, like when it comes to lowering the testosterone, because where I'm at when I'm working with people who are menopausal, postmenopausal, we're trying to bump that up because for the majority of them, because
Yeah.
we're lacking it. And so I don't hear much about how to get that down. So what do you do for that?
Yeah, so what I use are 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, and there's a few good herbs that I use for that. And honestly, that's one of the easiest things to do is to lower that testosterone for women. Like these herbs, they work really well. There's a few in combination together that we use, like nettle is one of them.
Nice.
Yeah. And it just, yeah, it helps the body process through that testosterone and get it back into a regular balance. It's quite simple. The protocol is very simple.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, that's good. And that again, that sounds simple, and that's what most women want. Our lives are already chaotic. We want
Uh-huh.
something simple that we don't have to do more of. That's yeah, great. Um,
Yes.
another thing came to mind too as we were mentioning this, because you were talking about how people get put on metformin. Do you ever try like berberine and ositol and those things in instead? Because again, I've even tried to get clients off of the metformin just for that reason, that these are more natural ways that you can do it. But just curious what your thoughts are on those.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I use those all the time in my practice. I think those are a really good place to start if maybe someone's had a bad reaction to metformin and needs something different, or they don't want to try metformin quite yet. Inositol and berberine both have some really good research behind them that they're supporting ovulation in similar ways that metformin is. So they're really good. Once you're on inositol, you don't necessarily need to be on both inositol and berberine, but if you're on one or the other, I do prefer inositol, but you don't necessarily need to then also go on metformin because you're getting the
Right.
insulin support and the ovarian support through those as well. So yeah, those can be a really powerful tool for women with PCOS.
Nice. I like that. That's good.
Mhm.
Good. I'm glad I asked that question.
Good. Yes.
Yeah. Um, there was something else that was in my head and I can't remember where it went. So, is there anything else that you would like to share about? I mean, like I said, I think this is something that a lot of women are not aware of. They're not, and they may not be aware of if it's going on. I think you did a little bit at the beginning, shared like some symptoms. Like if somebody's thinking, is this me? What would be, I mean, symptoms can be so much for so many things, but if you're like, these probably would be some things that you would look out for. Um, what would
Yeah.
those be?
Yeah, so long menstrual cycles, right? Or irregular cycles. And that would mean, one month you have a 22-day cycle and another month you have like a 50-day cycle. It's not like, oh, one month is 27 days, another month is 30 days. Like
Right.
that's not
That's
irregular,
right.
but yeah, like this really big difference. Um, that hair growth, like on the chin, the back, kind of that male pattern hair growth
Right.
at the under the belly button kind of thing or upper thighs. So having lots of hair growth there that doesn't go away. That's a sign of that elevated testosterone. And then having acne as well, which can be incredibly annoying for women our age, right? Like
Right.
when you're like, I thought I was done with this
Yes.
puberty.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So that's another pretty clear sign of too much testosterone or any androgen hormone. So that going on. And particularly if it's happening like cyclically, either with your cycle or on a monthly, it's like 1 week you have a lot of acne and then it goes away and then it comes back the next month. That's something to watch out for. And yeah, that easy weight gain, but I wouldn't say easy weight gain is like, if that's the only thing you're experiencing, it's
Right.
not like, okay, you probably have PCOS. That would be that along with one of the other symptoms.
Right.
And then you would think like, okay, I need to go get checked out. And then, go talk to your doctor about your thoughts about it.
Mhm.
But then you also need to get like that comprehensive view of your hormones and your nutrients to understand, again, like what specifically is going on in your body to then treat that PCOS.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's running the labs and the tests and everything, which most doctors, most if you go to your they're probably not going to run them for you, but they're going to run the basics. So you got to find somebody that can do all the comprehensive everything that you need.
Yes,
Sure.
exactly. Yeah.
So you need the whole picture, not just little bits.
Right. Which is why I always like to say, like, don't lose hope. If you think you have PCOS or you've been diagnosed and you're feeling lost, like, don't lose hope, because if you've talked to your doctor and they've given you this dismissive advice, like, you're not alone in that. And it's not okay, but you can be looking for these other resources to understand how to heal your body.
Right.
And I'm available as well. If you are struggling with PCOS or think that you may have it, go ahead and reach out to me. I offer free PCOS fertility breakthrough sessions. So I'd be more than happy to jump on a session just to talk through what's been going on for you.
I love that. I love that. And that's a great way to finish. I love what you said about how just remember that there's hope. Don't give up. That's so important because I think it's so easy for us to get frustrated and just be like, well, I guess this is how it is. And it doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. And it's hard when you have a doctor who's telling you, like, yeah, good luck. We don't have anything for you.
Right.
But yeah, I can promise you there's so much out there to help.
Good. And I love that. And I appreciate this time that you took with me and helping educating my listeners. It was awesome. If somebody wants to like find you or find more information on you, where can they go to?
Yeah. So head on over to my website, drangelapotter.com. I've got a pretty extensive blog about PCOS, and you can also find me on YouTube, and a little bit on Facebook and Instagram. So yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
And I will link to your website in the podcast episode as well, so people can easily access that and check that out.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you
you.
so much again for your time. I appreciate all this information.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was just delightful to be here.
I love educating women so much because I feel like we need to know way more than we do. So I appreciate your experience. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.